Hi, everybody. It's Ron again, and we're here for another day of trying to give some context to the headlines so we understand what's really going on. So first here, let's get this one that's dominating here. Argentina shocks world. So this is an outsider candidate who is actually I think the media is positing this person as a populist, but they're actually ousting the existing populist candidate, the Peronists candidate. And like most people in the West, we don't know that much about South American politics of these countries due to their geopolitical positioning in the world. They're not strategically important, but they're very interesting places. I'd love to go down there and check out these countries. You know, this is a really fascinating thing. This new candidate, he wants to ditch their currency, the peso, in favor of just going to the US dollar. And of course, the concept here, and they say it right here, do away with the cancer of inflation. And that's because every little country has their own currency and they can just inflate it by when they need more money, they just say they have more money because they print it. It'd be like going to your bank and saying, well, it says I've got 1,000. Please change that to 2,000, please. And they'd say, well, no, you can't do that. But if you owned the bank or owned the country that the bank was in, you might get away with that. The U.S. does that. You know, every year it's been adding about $1 trillion to its money supply to inflate and keep the economy going to prevent any cyclical recessionary situation. And we've gone from, below $1 trillion in our national debt to now something like well over 30 trillion, and presidents from Republicans and Democrats have been adding money like that every year. There are some caveats where the U.S. can do that, where other countries can't, because the U.S., all countries exchange their money through the U.S. when they go to other countries. Like an Argentinian peso doesn't go directly to a Chinese money or something like that. That everybody converts into the U.S., and that gives the U.S. more leverage in being able to create money. But little countries, if they do that, smaller countries, they can get into trouble. So this is a fascinating thing. There are arguments as well that countries do need to be able to create more money and create inflation sometimes, that it's good. But I don't know. I think what we've seen around the world is a lot of countries going crazy with that over the years. And I know people have said there's never a currency that's ever existed that wasn't destroyed by this sort of inflationary pressure. What else did he said? This is pro-gun, against abortion, vowing to cut ties with trading partners China and Brazil, insulted the Pope, seems to question the death toll under the brutal dictatorship of the past, etc., etc. I would say in general it's very difficult to really gauge how crazy or dangerous such a person is by the Western, especially U.S. media, because the U.S. media wants to see everything through the lens of their own country. The U.S. wants to infect the rest of the world with its own neuroses. So we always portray things in our own way. Like, remember the Arab Spring, now quite a few years ago? All the U.S. news media said democracy's coming to the Middle East, but that was never what it was like at all. That was because we see things through our own lens. And this guy's almost got my hair. Here we had a couple of interesting articles right here at the top. We've got Biden standing hits new lows amid Israel-Hamas war. It's a little bit unusual to see this. Typically, the U.S. press doesn't really connect the Biden administration to ills in the country, such as inflation or these wars. Here's something they really cannot ignore. Younger people are not interested in more big wars. And I would even say a lot of Republicans have that. The Republican Party has moved back to its isolationist pre-World War II roots as U.S. dependence on oil has decreased and populism has risen. And I don't, even me, I'm an old kind of hawkish person from the 80s era. But even, I endured, 8 years of the George W. Bush presidency in the early 2000s. And I was told how terrible war was, and he was terrible and a war criminal for starting wars and in participating in wars and funding them because he's hurting innocent people. But here we are, involved in a lot more wars here during the Biden administration. And this is quite an interesting article here if you're interested in getting into this statistical stuff. Typically you would, again, so the media is, all these polls give Trump a very slight advantage over Biden. And this is, again, explained away by the media by saying that, oh, well, it's within the realm of error statistically, so don't worry about it. This is the way it's portrayed in the media. However, this article is quite admirable because it does point out, it goes a step further and tells you the real context in that incumbents have on average led their eventual challengers by a little more than 10 points about a year out from election. So since a lot of the media kind of omits that, you don't realize that this is perhaps a worrying sign for the Biden presidency going into the next elections. Okay, here's another thing about Argentina. Shock therapy libertarian. Inflation soars 140%. I suppose is it any wonder that the populists down there in Argentina elected this guy who's, and the media is going to say is nuts. Here we have something again. The media, the U.S. coverage of the news, they really haven't. They've tried to go soft, maybe a little above Biden on his age in the past. And this article, I think, I would say, maybe purposely obscures a little bit of what's going on. Talking about that some people kind of unfairly are dinging Biden because of his age, and it's not fair because Trump is just a few years behind him. And then they say, well, look, Trump's just as bad. He said something in error, which he's always been speaking like that. And the obfuscation of this article, the kind of purposeful deception maybe is people aren't just upset about Biden because this number, 81. The age issue comes into play because they've heard Biden speak. They've seen him on the platform. And I think many people, even on the Democrat side, are saying, how can a person who can not express thoughts coherently and seem senile, almost like dementia, how can a person like that campaign for president next year? That's the issue. This article treats it as some sort of a just number, this number versus that number, and it's not fair to him. But I think even outside the United States and in social media, people see a lot more of the very scary, sometimes scary clips of Biden acting odd in public. And I don't wish him ill or anything. I just I don't know. I think on both parties, the Republican and the Democrat, there are moves to get rid of both Trump and Biden as the candidates next year, just to replace them with younger blood. I think that would be good for the nation if both of those guys were out of the picture. Okay. So a progressive anti-abortion group plays dirty to get ahead. This is an anti-abortion group that dares to use the same tactics as people on the other side of the aisle of leftists, graffiti, provocative messages they leave around. How dare they? I think what's happened in the U.S. is after that Supreme Court decision that overturned the right to abortion at a federal level, that essentially prevented states from regulating it. Some of the states have gone way too far in suddenly regulating abortions, while other states, more liberal states, have not. But this may be a very negative issue for Republicans going into next year, with how strict some of these very right-wing states have gone in curtailing all abortions. So a few things we talked about yesterday. Here's a good clickbait one. Dems doxed as dominatrix bolsters congressional campaign with Playboy profile. They put all the good words in there to make you click on it. And people love to click on sexually related things, but I'm not gonna. Okay. Here we have dear old Rosalind Carter, dead at 96. Jimmy Carter, now by far the oldest surviving president ever, the president to survive the most years and be the oldest after he was in office. Carter is 99, so he lost his wife. They were married for 77 years. I don't know if that's a scary thing to contemplate. I mean, it's an achievement. It's wonderful. There's some people who can have that, isn't it? And there they are as young people. Carter later, he won I believe the Nobel Peace Prize for his work to build homes. They build homes for people who don't have homes. But if you go back during his time as president, it was quite a chaotic presidency, and one of the most unsettled and chaotic times in late 20th century American history. Inflation over 20%, the deficit then seemingly out of control, taxes high still, and a lot of that. That was a great society that was posited in the 60s by Democrats. And then Nixon, some people have revisionist ideas about him. He certainly created a lot of the big government. He tried to fulfill those promises that the Democrats made in the 60s. And what did he get for it? They're never going to let him live down Watergate, despite anything else he thought he was going to do to pander to the left. This was on the front page up until a little bit ago at the top article on Drudge. This is a weird article. It's again, Erdogan returned from Germany visit. This article is very unclear. It doesn't say in what context this statement was made, as we've seen other statements where he said rabble-rousing things like this. It was maybe to a regional audience of supporters, things you have to say to pander, to cater to your constituency. So not really sure if this is really a sign of Turkish policy or just something they have to say in public. Although Turkey is one of those countries, I've talked about in some of the past commentaries, Turkey is one of the countries that has burst onto the stage to to go its own independent way again after many, many decades of just being a quiet partner of NATO and the West. Now, I missed this one. Now, millennials and Gen Z women are sharing their conversion to Islam in the wake of Israel-Hamas war. Leftist queer gremlin from Boston among those TikToking their journey. I don't know. I wonder when these things happen that seem to have involve religion in the Middle East, or do people get scared and that pushes people to just say, I'm going to embrace what the media makes me scared of, which is, Islamic supposed violence. I don't know. It's a very unusual thing. And then we can also say, as we have on this channel, at any time, something like this is happening in the world. Whether it's really a widespread trend or just a human interest story that the media's sort of dredged up for clicks, hard to say. The media won't tell you. But we can just be aware that might be the case. Okay, Thanksgiving, that's coming up this week on the 23rd, on Thursday, an American holiday. Canada has one. It's earlier, I believe. Ukraine attacks hitting deeper inside Russia. That's wild. We got more religious stuff covering up sex abuse. Gee whiz, what is it about religion? I guess it's humanity, Humanity will use any excuse to satisfy its urges. I don't think it means religion is bad. It just means that humans are bad and we can't put our faith in men. That is, in humans. Humans are fallible. How big tech generated billions in fines, then didn't pay them. Not even surprised to read that. Not even interested to read that. This was more from yesterday, where we had Musk saying something, implying something terrible about the Jews in general, And we're in a situation where we've gone far beyond just saying, well, I think the Palestinians should have a homeland, which they really kind of already did with existing agreements. People take that way too far to hating the Jews or trying to get rid of Israel. Insane. A little more about the AI. This open AI getting rid of the CEO. People wondering what's behind it. Saying here maybe he was ignoring the dangers of it. We talked yesterday about other AI companies kind of slumped on that news because you have this idea that the media overhypes new technology. So there's always a feel, the media says it's going to change everything, and it might change some things, but not everything. And over time, that those ideas work themselves out. I've got some neo-Nazis marching around. People tired of politics. This is a really scary thing if I were a young person. A job? Check. I mean, yes. A place to live? Not so much. This is rents are out of control in a lot of places in the United States. I don't. It's a scary type of thing. I don't know what the solution to that is. Again, apparently no fault of the president. This is just some random thing that happens. And I just say that not because I want to blame him, but I have to acknowledge when the Republican is in office, all these things are always related to the executive branch and the presidency and laid at his feet. And they've been very careful, though, with Biden. The media has. Here's a little more crazy stuff about one of the richest people in the world living out his fantasy. I don't know why it seems cringy. Vegas, sex workers shunned by banks. Ron Jeremy, I'm never interested in him. Headless body washing up on the beach. I don't know why I find that funny. It is a sort of headline that could occur any week, any day, any month of the year, and it does over and over. We talked about this yesterday. The other human species of the past. We think we got problems with race relations now. Imagine if there were other species of human-like creatures. And medical sort of stuff. They believe pesticides caused their cancers, proving it is almost impossible. We know what this is all about. You have these migrant workers in the southwest of America. They're probably carelessly exposed to pesticides. You get some lawyers to get a bunch of these guys together and file complaints. The ones who've gotten sick, you go after the deep pockets, which are usually the pesticide makers. So the big companies, there might be money to be had there. Doesn't mean they don't deserve it, but that's sort of I almost called it a grift. It's, you could all look at all of these things as a grift or as something that is justified, and maybe it's a little of both. Here's something that is not a grift. It's totally justified. This is my novel of Bangkok life, modern people living in a modern city, and the urge to go further and further afield in search of one's hopes and dreams. I worked a long time on this. It's on Amazon and Kindle. I hope somebody would buy it and let me know what they think. I meant it to be the definitive novel of modern Thai life in an international city that Bangkok has become. And we're always going to look at our Art of War cards. This is my Art of War deck of cards. Every card has something, and every day I'm picking out a card and to see if it can tell us anything. I didn't look at these ahead of time. Here we have disorient your adversary. Compel your adversary to redirect until you cause him to make an exploitable mistake. The basis of this is an adversary that cannot cope with your maneuvers yields the initiative to you. So this is from Art of War, the ancient Chinese treatise, and the concept is you use these sort of ideas, not just to have a war, we're not advising that, but in your business life, in your selling life, in your strategic thinking about how to deal with people. It's things we should know, like don't talk too much, don't show your hand. So maybe today you need to find a way to disorient your adversary. So those are the headlines for today. I will see you tomorrow with more. Bye-bye.